The co-founder and chief executive of Netflix, Reed Hastings, announced he would step down overnight and shift to the new position of executive chairman. The head of the global content streaming platform will hand the reins over to co-CEO Ted Sarandos and chief operating officer Greg Peters. Well, let's bring in market analyst Josh Gilbert from eToro. Josh, thanks so much for joining us today. Looks like the Netflix shares jumped after the announcement. What sort of legacy is Hastings going to be leaving behind as CEO?
Yeah, hi Ed, and well, he's certainly leaving on a high note. It's a great end to the year, huge subscriber beat, coming in well above sort of Wall Street expectations after what was a pretty dismal start to the year. But again, still a lot of hurdles for sort of Netflix to sort of really get through. And again, I think it's a bit of a mixed report in some cases. We had that big beat on the subscriber numbers. But again, we missed expectations on revenue and on earnings. And obviously the big news, as you say, is that sort of change in management. And that is always going to bring some uncertainty to investors, especially when it's a founder. In this case, he's been at the helm since the start. Although I don't think this means any sort of real big changes, given he is still staying involved in the company, as you say. We know the leadership's transitions can be rocky, and that's where the uncertainty lies. He's been there from the beginning. He's guided them through 20 plus years in the media industry. And look, the clever thing how they've done this, Netflix, which I think we have to give kudos to them. They've hired from within, and then Hastings has moved to sort of that chair position. So it's clever. He can sort of look over and watch the new co-CEO without sort of too much risk in that sense.
Yeah, you mentioned subscriber numbers on the way back up again at Netflix, which I think was a bit of a surprise to the stock market and investors. And if you look back to last year, particularly in America, that was when inflation was at its height. So even with high inflation, you'd expect people would temper their consumer spending. That didn't happen at Netflix. So is the outlook for Netflix and more broadly the streaming services looking pretty good at the moment?
Look, I think content is key. It delivered some big additions in the second half of the year. We had Jeffrey Dahmer, we had sort of Glass Onion that's sort of really done well for Netflix in sort of Q4. I think that gives investors a bit of confidence heading into this year that they can sort of deliver a steady stream of content throughout the year and not just one-hit wonders. But as you say, they've got some wind in their sails, some positive subscriber numbers, but that needs to sort of carry through to the rest of the year. I think it has the potential to do, and I think streaming is a huge business. We know that, but customers are going to want a lot more, especially as you say, we've got a cost of living crisis on our hands. We may have a recession to deal with down the line as well, and streaming services aren't probably going to be at the top of the list of essentials. But as you say, that content is going to be really, really important to make sure that streaming services from Disney to Netflix keep those subscribers in.